My work, why did I start all this? Food isn't just rice and wheat. Food is the dal, food is the oil seeds, food is the vegetables, the greens. So what I did is, because I could see with my eyes that the monoculture yields, which were called higher yields, were actually very impoverished biologically. You know, in terms of biology, they were producing very little. So I started to measure biodiversity-based productivity rather than a single monoculture yield. From the biodiversity productivity, we then calculated nutrition per acre. 10 times of India's population could be fed if we protect every plant that feeds us, including the wild edibles that are killed when you spray Roundup. Yeah? The second is we converted that data to wealth per acre. You know, what's the economics of the farmer? And when the farmer is trapped in buying seed, trapped in buying chemicals, the farmer is permanently in debt. And eventually when they can't pay the debt, they either commit suicide or they leave the land. Ecological agriculture with biodiversity, your own seed, your own chemical-free farming, and your economic sovereignty, you know, shaping the market. That's what we've helped farmers do. Yeah? The basmati of this valley had nearly disappeared. Save the seeds, we've created the basmati market. We saved the millets. We call them forgotten foods. And now they're future foods. Everyone's, you know, realizing that. And on all of these economic systems, farmers can have a decent living. So our Prime Minister had this slogan of doubling farming. I think it's a global slogan, doubling farm incomes. And if you cut the unnecessary costs, you can increase the farm incomes tenfold. Because most of the losses are because of the external inputs. So the idea that India would have starved is not at all true. What is being produced now is a commodity, not food. 80% of the GM corn and soya in America is growing for biofuel and animal feed. Look at the data on biofuel. Yeah? Animal feed, that's why factory farms are there. The second big issue is, new research is showing that when you apply chemicals to the soil, your soil organisms are killed. Living soil only is living if they are soil organisms. Soil organisms are what give us nutrition in the food. You know, and we've done enough research to show the zinc goes up, the magnesium goes up, all the elements we need, the trace elements, the micronutrients go up. Across the world, research is showing that 70 to 80% nutrition in food has disappeared in the last few decades in industrial farming. So food is supposed to be nourishment. It's the relationship between your body's health and the soil. तो एक बाजार में कमोडिटी आ रही है, वो तो लग रहा है ज़्यादा है, but कमोडिटी बढ़ना, nourishment बढ़ना नहीं है, अलग चीज़ हैं दोनों. तो nourishment depends on the quality, and the quality comes from good soil. Yeah? They're now finding out, there's so many scientists I've met, doctors working on cancer, doctors working on all kinds of issues, are now all coming back to the gut microbiome and the diversity of the gut microbiome. And they're all realizing it begins with the soil. Half of these big doctors, I know a New York doctor, I know an Italian doctor, they're top cancer specialists of their society. They've left the city and they're doing organic farming, saying our clinic will be on the farm. So the biggest issue about industrial food, that's empty of nutrition but loaded with chemicals, is the chronic disease epidemic. We have a whole report called Food and Health in which we've calculated how much is the cost. We've done it for India too. So compared to what the economy of agriculture is, the economy of disease is much, much bigger. So idhar charo taraf hospital khul gaye. People see that as progress. But sickness is not an indicator of doing better. You know? Sickness is an indicator of the society not living well. So when you ask, in spite of everything, why is it, you know, why are big highways big, why are the big dams? The answer is quite simple. ecological processes that nourish the earth and take care of local economies and local livelihoods, take care of people and the earth, but they don't generate super profits. So right now we have the agriculture system. When I started, seed was everywhere. And when people used to say, "Kyun bacha rahi ho, itne beej hain?" I said, "Nahi bachenge." Now Navdanya is the only place you can find native seeds. 60% of all the seeds of the world are in the hands of the chemical industry. 60%, 4 giants. In 1987, they had said we'll be 5, but they're only 4 now. The same Bayer's, Monsanto's, the same Syngenta, ChemChina's, the same Dow DuPont, which has renamed itself as Corteva. All of them had connections with Hitler Germany. All. All of them were making gases for the concentration camps. And then they moved to chemicals in agriculture. You know, what they used to say about chemical fertilizers is growing food in the air because you fix the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen. So, you know, when you ask why hasn't the insanity stopped? Because insanity is very profitable. Yeah? And yet, I would say, given, you know, when I started questioning GMOs, I was about the only one. When I started to save seeds, you know, after that meeting in '87, you know, we were the only ones. But now what's really happening is there are seed banks everywhere, everywhere. Organic farming is growing everywhere. And the shift in thinking is explosive. It's just that it doesn't make the front page of New York Times and Financial Times. And I have learned now over these many years that, you know, the big media will be there at a certain time and other times it will not be there. But, you know, it's again just like the measure of how big your commodity is not the measure of health. The measure of how much the dominant system, I was just reading this morning, you know, because when money is what decides the system that will in place. But this is exactly the system that's collapsing. So the more you extract, the more the system collapses. And people are waking up to this collapse. And you talked about the COP27. I was asked to be there. They were going to show the film that's been made on me called Seeds of Vandana Shiva. I couldn't make it. But I think there's going to be lots of debates because another thing with big money is, oh, बैठ के कुर्सियों पे they think, अरे ये बना दो, you know, just own the planet now. Do geoengineering, make fake food. They just sit in small rooms and work it out. And by and large, they think they'll get away with it. You know, when they started talking about fake food a year ago, there weren't that many voices, but at Charmal's sake, every movement is questioning it. That this is not the way to go, agroecology regenerative agriculture is the way to go. So, you know, if you look at where on the ground things are shifting, across the world, it's vital to know that the movement for chemical, and Europe has a farm to fork policy that says we are going to make the link between the farm and eating and the table much more intimate. Now, of course, like the crop life organizes, then they attack. But we have to just understand their power. Yeah. Their power does not mean it's the right thing. The right thing will stay the right thing even if it is not on the headlines.